Some of you have asked, hey, Kent, what paint did you use to beautify those parts on your D-Jetronic V8? One of the goals was to try to find something that kind of mimicked the CAD plating, because there's other CAD plating on this engine, and many of these old engines have CAD plated parts on the fuel system. Well, the problem is the CAD plating wears off and it gets really ugly. I mean, really ugly. So let me show you first some of the other CAD plating, and then you can see what my goal was to try to mimic that. It's almost impossible to replicate it perfectly with a paint, but I think this one's pretty close. Here you can see the new CAD plating on my recently replaced air suspension components. And then I pan over to the fuel injection rails and caps. You can see they're real close. It's not perfect. Also notice the bolts. I replaced the bolts with brand new bolts. I carry these on my website if you want to do the same to your D-Jet engine. I also used this paint when I recently replaced the fuel injectors in this 380SL. Here's a little trick I used on these lines. They were heavily oxidized. They look real bad, but I didn't want them to look like they had just been completely repainted. So to keep them kind of original, I misted the paint on the lines. I did not get full coverage, but just stood back and misted this gold paint on so they look like aged CAD plating. I also use this paint when I rebuild the fuel delivery system on these old Mercedes. It gives me a pretty close to genuine look for the bracket that holds the fuel pump and the filter. This is the paint I use. It's a RustOleum metallic paint and primer in one, and it's pure gold. Let's see if we can find a number. 245211 metallic pure gold by RustOleum. Because it has a built-in primer, this stuff bonds real well. I do recommend taking a Scotch-Brite and just roughing up these metal parts with Scotch-Brite before you paint them for better adhesion. You don't have to use sandpaper, but a Scotch-Brite really helps to get this stuff to stick. And clean them very well, or you will get fish eyes in your paint. You can find this at most hardware stores. You get it at Lowe's. I also carry it on my website if you're in a location where you can't find it locally.